It's about time. 1 month into 2024, and I'm finally doing my first concert rankings video from 2023. And yes, we're starting with the worst of the worst. We're starting with the bottom. We're starting with the concerts that I had the worst experiences with. The wise words of Drake once said, "We starting from the bottom now, yeah. Started from the bottom, now my whole team." Music lovers and concert goers, what is going on, and welcome back to Spotlight on Tours, where we talk all things concerts and live music. I'm your host, Jake Kelly, and yes, finally, it is about time. 1 month into 2024, I am finally putting out my very first of many 2023 concert rankings videos, starting off with the top 5 worst concerts of 2023. And like I said, there are going to be so many of these videos coming out in the coming weeks and coming months. And the lineup of concerts that I went to in 2023 is absolutely insane. I went to 38 concerts in 2023, which is absolutely insane. And I averaged it out. I did a little bit of math, which is an average, and I'm going to flash it right here up on the screen right now. That is an average of just under one concert every 10 days throughout an entire year of 365 days, which is absolutely insane. I can't even believe that I went to that many concerts, and we're going to break them down right now with a series of rankings videos, but we're starting off with 34 through 38. We're starting off with 34 through 38, basically what I'm just going to call the top 5 worst concerts of 2023. So to go through the crazy list of concerts that I went through in 2023, I'm only going to do this once. I'm going to flash the list on every single one of my rankings videos, but I'm just going to go through the list once, just read it all out like one time throughout these entire rankings videos, so that way I can show you all the concerts that I went to. And, you know, as I get through those rankings videos, the ranking numbers are going to get posted on this list, and then we'll be able to go from there. So as far as it goes, I went to 38 concerts in 2023. Trippie Redd, Fitz and the Tantrums, Nav, Skillet and Theory of a Deadman, Breaking Benjamin, Dylan Scott, Janet Jackson, Taylor Swift, Godsmack, Ava Max, Chris Stapleton, TLC and Shaggy, Two Friends, BB Rexa, Ed Sheeran, Thomas Rhett, Big Time Rush, Luke Combs, Post Malone, Matchbox 20, Godsmack and Stained, Wiz Khalifa, Snoop Dogg and Too Short, Pink, Granger Smith, Jelly Roll, Foreigner, Disturbed, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Jonas Brothers, Coldplay, All Time Low, Macklemore, Guns N' Roses, Blue October, Queen, Lil Skies, Ricky Martin, Pitbull and Enrique Iglesias, and Travis Scott. So an absolutely insane lineup of concerts that I was able to go through, or that I was able to go to, rather, in 2023. And that list right there of all the artists and all the bands that I saw, it's all in order based on date, from January all the way down till December. For example, Trippie Redd, the very first concert that I listed was in January, and Travis Scott, the very last concert that I listed for 2023 was in December. So we're going to get right into it. Like I said, this rankings video is 34 through 38. We're going to talk about those numbers right now, but I'm just going to refer to them as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the top 5 worst concerts of 2023, because there were a lot of really bad parts about a lot of these concerts that I want to talk about. So we're going to get right into it. Starting off with number 5, from November 1st at the Hollywood Bowl, I got Guns N' Roses 2023 tour. And this show, let's just be honest, you know, Guns N' Roses, they're a very washed up band. Axl Rose, his voice has really gone downhill over the last few years. Like, they definitely, you would think they would put on a much better show in like the 80s and the 90s back during their prime. But boy, oh boy, just overall, this concert was just disappointing. You know, I went to the Hollywood Bowl, and I thought this show was going to be great. You know, the Hollywood Bowl, they're putting on a really big show with like a really big band from a long time ago, one of the best rock and roll bands in the world. The Hollywood Bowl is known to be one of the most iconic venues in the world for concerts. And, you know, you just see, like, videos of, like, fireworks going off all the time behind the amphitheater during concerts and like so many cool lighting effects and that kind of thing. But this was just an underwhelming show. Like, I just couldn't even believe it. You know, the lack of production, the stage presence of the band wasn't that bad because, like, at least they were, like, kind of trying a little bit to, like, play their music good. Again, Axl did not sound good because of the fact that just that whole band is really just kind of washed up. But the production lacked and the crowd interaction was just, oh my God, non-existent. I thought that, you know, they barely interacted with the crowd. I feel like they maybe acknowledged maybe once or twice that the Hollywood Bowl crowd even existed. Their setlist was pretty good. They played for 3 hours, so a really long show, and they played pretty much all of their really big songs. But again, throughout those 3 hours, and I mentioned this in my concert post that I talked about with Guns N' Roses, they probably interacted with the crowd for maybe at the very most 2 minutes of that entire 3-hour set. It seemed like they just kind of wanted to go out there, perform their songs, and then get off stage, and that was pretty much it. And I had stated in that post that it was just absolutely unacceptable, especially being a band that's one of the most iconic bands of all time in Guns N' Roses. They're one of the best rock and roll bands of all time, and I just felt like this show was just very underwhelming. You know, I know you're a washed-up band, but, like, you can hire a younger staff to maybe put on a better production behind what's going on. And, you know, it was just a mess, I felt like. And I didn't really enjoy the vibe. I wasn't wowed, really, at any point during the show. And, you know, for all those reasons, that's why Guns N' Roses is on this list at number 5. Moving on now to number 4. From July 28th at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Mass., I got Wiz Khalifa, Snoop Dogg, and Too Short's high school reunion tour. And it was not a pleasure high school reunion tour anyway for me because of how bad this show was. This show was just pretty much half-assed by pretty much every artist that performed except for Snoop Dogg. It was just bad up until he came on. And when he came on, he was alright. I think he did a very good job of like hyping up the crowd. I liked the way he performed. I think he's got a very good stage presence, and I thought Snoop Dogg was pretty good, to be honest. But here was my problem with this concert. None of the 3 artists interacted with the crowd almost at all. You know, I feel like out of the 3, I feel like Too Short was the one that probably interacted the most. And I had my issues with his performance as well with his set because of his lack of production. It seemed like, you know, it was like non-existent. You know, if you're going to have non-existent production and like pretty much act like you're an opening act when really you're part of what's like a trilogy type of like tri-headline tour type of thing, if you're going to put them on the list like that, you can't have bad production like that, and you can't have production that doesn't exist. I felt like that was just not good and Too Short. You know, his performance wasn't that bad, and I liked his stage presence, and I liked the way that he kind of interacted with the crowd, but besides that, I feel like, you know, this show just as a whole was really just, you know, kind of just meh, like not good, and yeah. And what disappoints me even more is Wiz Khalifa. You know, Wiz Khalifa was the second artist to take the stage, and I've seen Wiz Khalifa 3 times. I love Wiz Khalifa. I think he's a great artist. I think he makes some great music, but every single time that I have seen him since 2019 live, he has gotten worse and worse and worse. I saw him in 2019 at the Decent Exposure Tour, and in 2019, I went to 9 concerts. Wiz Khalifa was number 3 on that list. Last year, when I went to his tour with Logic, that tour ranked number 16 out of like, I think 22, I want to say. And then this tour is now in the bottom 5 of 38 concerts that I went to at number 4th worst of 2023. And I feel like, you know, if Wiz Khalifa goes on another tour, I don't know if he's out of his prime. I don't know if he can come back. I'm hopefully thinking that maybe he can make some sort of comeback and he can maybe be better live in the future. But for now, I have to put this on this list because I just think that this tour in general was just very disappointing. And I thought that there was maybe some sound issues going on. Maybe Wiz Khalifa got too high before the show. I don't know. But Snoop Dogg clearly was more baked on stage. It looked like, you know, he gets high before all his shows. And he came out there and he had a lot of energy and he did a very good job with his songs. The set lists from, you know, Snoop Dogg and Wiz and Too Short, they were okay. Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa performed like pretty much all of their big songs. But, you know, the lack of production and just overall a half-ass show is why this concert in particular is making it at number 4 on this list. Moving on now to number 3. From May 19th at the Xfinity Center, I got Janet Jackson, Together Again. And you're probably wondering, Jake, why is this not number 1? You mentioned it in your concert review that this was the very first and only concert that you have ever gone to that you actually left early because it was so bad. Well, first of all, the reason I left early wasn't entirely because of how bad that show was. I was going to Taylor Swift the next night, and I had work early that morning before Taylor Swift. And I also wanted to listen to the rest of the Celtics game while they were in the playoffs on my way home, and I was going to miss it if I had stayed for the remainder of that concert, and I would have been sitting in traffic, listening to pretty much nothing. But once again, Janet Jackson was almost number 1. For the longest time, I was like, yeah, this is definitely going to be the worst concert of 2023. But no, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm putting her at number 3 for one reason and one reason only. One man, and that is Ludacris. Ludacris came out there as the opening act, and he was phenomenal. Ludacris puts on such an amazing show. I would love to go see him headline someday. I love the way he interacted with the crowd. I loved his energy when he was on the stage. I loved the songs he did, the set list he did. His DJ was phenomenal, and he's going to definitely be on my list of top 10 opening acts once I get into that series because Ludacris was just phenomenal. I love the way he performed, but man, Janet Jackson came out and, again, much like Snoop Dogg, Wiz Khalifa, and Too Short, just half-assed. Production was terrible. The stage layout, stage design was just kind of weird in my opinion. And the show was just bad. You know, Janet Jackson came out there and she just noticeably, 100%, the whole crowd noticed it, lip sank throughout her entire set. And maybe, again, I mentioned this in my concert review, maybe Janet Jackson was a little bit better back in her early days as an artist. But right now, oh my God. Just god-awful, that show that I saw, the Together Again. You know, the lip-syncing, just everything about it was just not good. I didn't really enjoy it. I left midway through because of the way Janet Jackson was lip-syncing, and this was just a really bad headline performance from Janet Jackson, and that, for all those reasons, pretty much just the lip-syncing piece, and the lack of production, the lack of crowd interaction. I felt like, again, much like Guns N' Roses, like I talked about, she wanted to just go on stage and then get off. And then, as a result of that, I noticed it early on, and I got the hell out of there. Janet Jackson, what you have done for me lately has disappointed me. You're lucky you're not at number 1, but because you had a good opening act, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt and putting her at number 3. Moving on now to number 2, from September 9th at Dodger Stadium. Talk about just 5 albums and one night of cringiness. I got Jonas Brothers, the tour, and good God. Let's get to the positives first. You know, Jonas Brothers, they played at Dodger Stadium, such a massive venue, and the fireworks were incredible. I loved when they had the fireworks at the beginning and the end, sometimes through the middle during their big songs. I thought that was pretty good. I liked the way that they interacted with the crowd, especially with like the front row people. Like they brought a few fans up on stage. They talked to some of the crowd members in like the first few rows there, like on the turf of Dodger Stadium. And they had the best set list, I think, of any band or artist that I've ever seen. You know, they called their tour 5 albums the tour for a reason. 5 albums one night, because they performed pretty much all of their music. So I thought that they had a great set list, but here's why this concert is the runner-up for the worst concert of 2023. It was because of their sound audio. I felt like I couldn't even understand what they were saying. I feel like maybe there was a little bit of lip syncing there at times. And I just thought that, you know, they played for so long, and I just felt like it got boring at so many points. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like I might have been a little bit too nice when I was talking about this show in my concert review, because honestly, overall, this was a very bad and not so good concert. Like I said, I pretty much broke down the timeline when I talked about it in my concert review. They started off with a couple good songs, and then they bored me. They lost me. People were sitting down. I sat down. Then they did their cover of Year 3000. That was really good. And then they lost me for like the next probably hour of their set. And then they came back. They did a few shows towards the end. And like I said, they were dealing with a lot of audio issues for sure. Like it didn't just the overall sound quality, I feel like didn't really sound good at all. Especially, I think the reason for that is because this tour was an arena stadium hybrid tour, which, for some bands, for some artists, those types of tours work, and sometimes they don't. For this particular tour, it did not work. Because the fireworks, sometimes they were timed, sometimes they were just completely out of time. And I just felt like, it was kind of cringy at points, seeing the fireworks timed completely, like, awfully, when they were doing, what's the song that they were doing? What's the song? Only Human. That song, the fireworks were timed great. Every other time, I feel like the fireworks were timed, like, completely off. And also, this was my very first music concert that I went to in Los Angeles during my 4 months there because, I went to Star Wars Return of the Jedi the weekend before. So this was like the first like actual like music show that I went to in Los Angeles. And honestly, I am ashamed to be admitting that it was Jonas Brothers. And based on how, bad it sounded. Again, there were points where it was okay, but overall, just not a great show. One that I would honestly, not write home about, and that's why this concert is making it at my runner-up for the worst concert of 2023 at number 2. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the only reason that I went to this concert is because, if there's any time to see the Jonas Brothers, it's this tour right now. The tickets were really cheap. I think I paid like 30-something for my ticket, and, let's face it, I'm not a huge fan of the Jonas Brothers. I think they have some decent music, but overall, this was just not a good show. I didn't really enjoy it. And, because of all the factors that I already explained, that's why this show is the runner-up for the worst concert of 2023 at number 2. And finally, at number 1, my friends are going to give me such a hard time for this. From January 22nd at the Tsongas Center in Lowell, the very first concert that I went to in 2023, I got Trippie Redd's Trip on Campus tour. I'm just sorry. But for me anyway, Trippie Redd has just completely gone downhill for me. And I'm sure just a lot of like rap fans. Trippie Redd is another one of those artists that I've seen 3 times and has gotten drastically worse ever since I've seen him. I saw him on his Love Letter to You 4 tour, I believe, in February of 2020, where he had the live band at House of Blues in Boston. That was an absolutely incredible show. I loved the band. I loved his DJ. I thought it was really hype. The second time I saw him was at the Trip at Night tour in 2021 at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield. And that show was great too. He didn't have the live band, but the production was great. Trippie was really good. His stage presence was awesome. And I really loved that show. This show, god-awful. It was put on by, Platinum Entertainment Group, which is, a college organization. And, my friends were saying to me, listen, Jake, don't rate this so low because it's probably on a low-budget tour. But honestly, screw that. Trippie Redd should have came out there. He should have had better production and just better opening acts and really just more, like, better organization overall. Because let me just tell you, like, the flow of this show, it was supposed to happen in October of 2023. It got postponed to a Sunday night, and then weeks leading up, he moved it to a 4 p.m. show start on a Sunday afternoon, a matinee concert on January 22nd on that Sunday night, because he had to fly to Washington, D.C. later that evening to perform and open up for Future's tour that was going on down in D.C. This is how much of a shit show this entire tour was. This entire, like, show structure, pretty much just the entire scheduling of this whole entire show was just a complete shit show. And boy, like, it's just painful to say that Trippie Redd is the worst concert that I went to in 2023, because Trippie Redd used to be one of, if not my favorite artist. You know, Trippie Redd, I love his music. I love his vibe. I used to love his concerts, but he's just gone downhill as an artist the last couple of years. And, you know, he dropped an album, you know, last year. He was supposed to go on a big tour. He was supposed to come to the Xfinity Center. He was supposed to do like a massive tour out of it. And he ended up canceling all but like 2 or 3 shows from that tour. And he didn't give his fans any sort of, you know, explanation as to why. And it was just a big thing. And, you know, the whole deal with rescheduling this show the night before, postponing it to January, and then having it be a 4 p.m. show, and, you know, the DJ coming out there before, the opening acts that were like surprise opening acts coming out there. No one knew who the hell they were. They were terrible. And, you know, Trippie Redd came out. The production wasn't even there. It pretty much lacked. There were no lighting effects. The production was pretty much non-existent. I'm pretty sure he had like maybe one smoke effect at the beginning and the end. And that was really it. And, you know, Trippie Redd, I still liked his performance. He played for like 45 minutes. He played some decent songs. I thought the set list was, you know, again, very mid, considering the fact that he only played for a very short amount of time. And again, Trippie Redd, he's a great performer. I loved his vibe. I loved, you know, the mosh pits that he was able to create. And I thought that he had a decent performance on this tour. But just overall, man, just not a good show. And Trippie Redd as an artist is just starting to go on the decline for me. Trippie Redd was the only concert that I went to in 2020 because of COVID. I went to his show in February of 2020, which obviously makes that the number one show for 2020 and the number one concert for 2020. It was the only concert that I went to in 2020. And then in 2021, I went to 12 concerts once the pandemic ended and everything started to open up again. And Trippie Redd's Trip at Night tour, it ranked number 3 of 12 on that list, because of how awesome, even though it wasn't nearly as good as the first time I saw him, it was still incredible. This last tour, god-awful. Which, again, it pains me to say that in 2021, in a span of 2 years, Trippie Redd went from number 3 of a 12 concert rating to last, dead last, on a list in 2023 of 38 concerts that I went to in 2023. It pains me to say it. My friends are probably going to give me such a hard time for it because I went to this show with them. But that's why Trippie Redd, I'm sorry, but he's number 1. The worst concert of 2023 for me. Anyway, y'all, that's going to wrap it up for this video. The next video is going to be concert rankings 33 through 29. So keep an eye out for that. Once again, you can follow this channel on Instagram at Spotlight on Tour show below. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Jake Kelly, and until next time, rock on.